Okay, viewers, this is Dr. James Wand speaking, and today's date is Sunday, the 8th of March 2026, and I'm back at my supported housing room for the homeless, bedroom to myself, and making this video. And it's also International Women's Day today, and I made some videos earlier today in Coventry City Centre on Fairfax Street, and also at Broadgate Coventry City Centre next to the Lady Godiva statue. And I just mentioned some of my views and registered my views regarding the recent crisis in war-torn countries like Iran and also Ukraine. And I need to mention my stance completely with what's been going wrong. And also I need to mention that I disagree with the capture of the Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores, and that was on the 3rd of January 2026. I disagree with that. The Operation Absolute Resolve that was carried out by the United States, I think that went overboard as well. A sovereign leader of a country was captured, literally, and taken, from them, snatched. And that is an oil-producing country, incidentally, Venezuela. And there seems to be a pattern there. Obviously, that's what's going on. And the recent crisis in Iran, the missile attacks on the 28th of February 2026. I need to register my opinion there as well, my views. And like I said, I disagree with the capture of Nicolas Maduro, the Venezuelan president. I don't agree with that at all, that operation. And also, I disagree with the strikes on Iran as well, to some extent. That was very wrong, especially when they killed all those schoolgirls and staff at that school in Minna in southern Iran, and also taking out the government leader as well with some of his other members of government. So that's a sovereign government as well, again. And obviously the Ukraine crisis, I'm not too happy with that as well. That's been ongoing for quite some time as well. And all of that has an effect on the economy of many countries around the world. And I think there's a pattern there. And it's also reminding me of, like, that Goldfinger film. And the main culprit there, the main henchman, is actually trying to make his stock more valuable than the rest. And I think that's what seems to be going on there as well. Unstabilizing other countries around the world, controlling the supply of oil, and making, say, for instance, USA supreme, and all the other countries, next to nothing, and on the line of poverty and struggling. And that's the sort of pattern I'm sort of thinking that seems to be going on. And also the attempt to take Greenland. Obviously there was outrage there by the Europeans, but that's just a small populated country. There's not many people in that country. There's more people in Coventry City than the entire Greenland country. And so in terms of population, it's not heavily densely populated at all. Obviously, it is a strategic interest to the government of the USA because it's been so close to it, but so are other countries close to it as well. And they've all got rights there as well to be, in control of that area. Not just the USA, of course. And like I said, it is territory of Denmark. But the overall message I'm getting here it is reminding me of something like Goldfinger, Big Finger henchman going on, trying to take over the world, maybe, control the supply of oil and things, and make their own country prosperous and whilst doing that at the stake, making others suffer and in poverty. So that's not really right, is it? If the rest of the world is going to be, and tariffs on things as well, affecting the rest of the world. So what does that remind you of? You told me, isn't that kind of tyranny? One government or one country trying to act so powerful in controlling other countries around the world and suppressing their oil supply and controlling their oil supply, and even their leaders, snatching their leaders or killing their leaders. That does remind me of tyrannical regimes kind of going on. It's not really good times, is it? And I think people, even actors, even Robert De Niro, people like that, have registered their, anger at the USA government and their leader, and they've been obviously attacked for that. And some people have even left the USA. For instance, George Clooney, he's become a French citizen, obviously, after marrying Amal Clooney, and they've settled in France. It's not a good time to be, I think, American, even abroad, at the time, in my opinion, with what's going on with the government up there. And I think trying to control the world like that is not really right. But making, you know, their own country so supreme, and you know, like a dictatorship kind of, you know, a tyrannical kind of country. You know, it's like Germany, innit? When World War II, when they're trying to, and they were criticized, you know, obviously for invading Poland. But here, what's going on? They're killing leaders, and trying to, you know, change their governments, and they're calling them regimes of their government, obviously. But in the process, and also taking sovereign leaders out as well. So that sovereign countries, leaders, and governments, and also snatching the sovereign leader themselves, like in Venezuela. So that is really authoritarian dictatorship going on. Real control freaks there at the top. I think the power that they've got is so supreme. In the old days, obviously, it was East versus West. You know, like the Soviets, the Soviet Union. There was a bit of a, you know, kind of a competitor there who could, you know, handle that. So if it's just one-sided country, you know, that's so powerful and supreme, maybe that's why they're trying to do this. You see, and this kind of bullying behavior. And it's not good for law and order for the world order. I think that's not really right either. It's not helping world order, and it does remind me of that Goldfinger film. You know, that henchman trying to make his stock so valuable at the expense of others by making the rest of the world's stock of gold, for instance, you know, radioactive. So it's analogous to something like that going on. Obviously, not necessarily gold. In this case, it might be like controlling the supply of oil, making your own oil, you know, deposits, and trying to take over places where there are like, you know, strategically sites of oil, for their own purposes, like Greenland, for instance. You know that, you know, where there are sites there, where they could, you know, if they take over that, obviously, just like Alaska was full of oil when Russia sold Alaska to America. That was their biggest blunder, of course. So, but obviously, Greenland wasn't handed over, and the Denmark government didn't sell it to the USA. So that's the important point to remember. And there was objection from the Europeans as well. They were willing to put troops there in Greenland just to stop that, you know, maneuver from the USA government. So that did work actually. That and at and in Switzerland, when they had that meeting with world leaders in Davos, obviously it did have obviously effect on their U.S. policy. They were, you know, withdrawing from that attempt to go in with non-peaceful means, you know, into Greenland. Obviously, they're offering incentives and money to the residents there anyway to see if they would support them to take over the, you know, Greenland, but that hasn't so far sufficed. And obviously, Denmark not letting go of that either. End of the day, it is kind of USA being too powerful in it, and obviously, if the Soviet Union's collapsed, and obviously it's only Russia nowadays, you know, who's going to stop them in it? Is that sort of thing. When one country is getting too powerful, and there's not you know, an opposition there, and just like in politics, if you've got just one party and the opposition's just finished, you know, you don't stand much chance, you know, and it might not be you know, kind of you know, decent politics. It'll be extremism, isn't it? And that's what it is like in world order as well. If it's just one country doing that all the time, you know, trying to dictate to others and trying to control the world order, try to be the, you know, the world kind of you know, diktat state, if you like, and, you know, trying to be supreme in that respect. And it is like Goldfinger, honestly, analogous to that sort of effect, acting so powerful itself at the extent of making others, you know, in poverty. And I think what could happen is obviously rising cost of living is affecting those countries, and maybe it's deliberate. So those countries are poor, and then obviously then they'll be, you know, more respectful, maybe, I don't know, at the feet, you know, of countries that are powerful, you know, and that's what it is, isn't it? So that's what they're trying to achieve by starting wars and things, and they'll be starving in those countries, and you know, just barely feeding their people. yet alone anything else. And weapons and things, obviously that's another line for them to supply, and let them kill each other as well. So that will supply their arms race as well. So that's jobs for them as well in the arms industry, in the military, of course. So that's what they're doing, and it is, kind of something that needs to be, mentioned, and it is kind of alarmist what's going on. Starting off with the abduction, the capture of Nicolas Maduro and his wife, sovereign leaders of a country, regardless of what he's been accused of, literally snatched out. That was wrong, and then what did it lead to? The strikes in Iran, killing school children, schoolgirls, and taking out the leader there, killing the leader, in fact, not just capturing, killing the leader. That's how absurd it's going, so you know where you're heading with that sort of regime.